Today's podcast is an interview with dynamic songwriter Katie Rios. Katie's story speaks of being radically transformed by the person and presence of Jesus. Her life-changing encounter with God at the age of 20 was a truly defining moment for her, and one that she has never regretted since. Now she lives in Ventura, California, as an artist with a deep-seated passion to commune with God in and through the creative process. We hope this podcast both encourages and inspires you to dig deeper into your own creative potential and, in so doing, become more connected to the living Creator God. Enjoy. How has your songwriting process evolved over time?
I didn't write for a long time because I felt like God's not giving me anything, so there must not be anything there. And it was actually super recently. We have corporate prayer meetings on Wednesday nights, and we have worship before and after we pray also. And that song that I shared, that chorus, whatever you say, just popped.
Have you submitted it?
No, I showed it to Dom, and he's like, Katie, I always submit things to Dom as like my final, because he will be so honest from like an anointing and a practical perspective. It like hurts a lot of the times, but it's so good. I've grown so much because of him. I showed it to him, and he was like, great song, I love everything about it, but the bridge feels disingenuous because the place I'm coming from, so it came from this prayer meeting where we sent out super dear friends of ours that were our pastors, felt called to Hawaii, and I was like, what are we gonna do without them? And God in that prayer meeting was like, they have to go in order for like other people to come like rise up to what God's called them to do. And you're scared that I'm going to call you somewhere and you're going to have to leave too. I'm like, guilty, cool. But I sang that, whatever you say, wherever you go, I'll follow. And Dom pulled me aside and was like, Katie, what did you sing? I don't know, it just popped out. Did you write it? Well, I feel like weird claiming that I wrote it, because I feel like Holy Spirit wrote it and I just sang it, you know? But sure. And he told me, I think, it was like hooky, and the people caught on within a second and were singing it, and it felt anointed. So maybe you should start thinking about writing more. Like, cool. I'll just keep coming to prayer meetings and like asking God for stuff then. And I sang another spontaneous thing in a prayer meeting, same thing. He like pulled me aside. It's like, Katie, I think you'd be doing everyone and yourself a disservice if you didn't invest in this like gift. Like, I'd love to sit down with you and co-write with you and share with you whatever I have. I'm like, cool. You've been producing and writing and recording for 10 years, and you said, what day? It felt like an honor, but I kind of felt like a phony, you know?
How have those sessions gone?
Good. Generally how those will go is I get hooks all the time. Like when I'm worshiping or when someone else is worshiping, it's just like hooks are really easy for me. But I have to work so hard for verses, and I have to work so hard for bridges. And so Brian will bring, also a super anointed songwriter, will bring an idea, probably a hook, and say like, send a voice memo, hey, what do you think of this? Is there anything here? Yes or no? If there's not anything there, either they'll say, no, nothing is there, or they won't respond. Either means that sucks, go back to the drawing board. Cool. I'm glad. But we normally start with a hook, get some voice memos, kind of get bones, and then we'll sit down for like 2 hours and like myself, Dawn, and Brian, and we'll hash through everything. And Brian is super anointed, like unbelievable lyricist, and also unbelievable at arranging things. Like he makes scratch demos that sound like
Final Product.
Yeah. And yeah, Dom will be the one that's like, what do you mean by that lyric?
Yeah.
You know?
Is that
actually true? Oh, you're talking about water again? I wonder if there's enough songs about water. Which is like so good, and I've learned to come from those experiences and come back to the Lord and be like, okay, like one of the lines of that song that he hated was, you asked me to let go, or you asked me to step out to leave the safety of the shores behind. And he goes, I mean, feels kind of overused, like, like I know that you're planning to like submit something for the Bethel songwriting retreat, and I wonder how, like, I'm trying to put myself in their shoes, thinking like shores, you know. And I went back and I was like, okay, I respect you, I trust your opinion. And I went back and I felt like Holy Spirit gave me really specific imagery, and it meant a lot to me. And I don't care if it's overused because it's anointed, because God gave it to me. And so I went back and I was like, this is the deal, you know. But his final, the bridge is like, my sails are open, my anchor's lifted, I'm like ready to go. But the rest of the song is like, I'm so scared, but I'll trust you anyways. It feels like too big of a jump to say like, my sails are open. Like,
it's like Christian movies that resolve everything.
Yeah.
But leave nothing unresolved. Yeah.
Right.
And they do it like that. Like,
yeah.
There's no evolution or progress.
Yeah. So such a good, it's so good. Needed to hear that. Brian would have never told me that. So now I'm back to the drawing board. It's like, okay, sit in this space of where you like gave this to me. Where does my heart want to go? Okay, my heart is still feeling like I'm still stuck. Again, with discipline. Because I was so pumped that the song was finished, and I have to go back to the drawing board. I feel like I'm pushing it off, you know? But I wrote, my phone looks exactly like yours. I'll just show you a little bit of my process. So this app is called Evernote, and it's so rad. You can have like a bunch of notebooks, and then you have notes in each. So, I mean, can you tell that I start a lot of things and don't finish them? So I save everything in here, and if I have an idea, then I'll just log it. So like Emily, she was talking one day about her experience with God, and she said, God the Father, when she's feeling insecure, he comes and he puts a crown on her, and he tells her, shoulders back, held high, like head held high, that's how a daughter. And she said that, I was like, that is a song. And so I just logged it as a little idea, and then kind of wrote a few things that are like, I don't love these, but it's a place for me.
Yeah.
So in Evernote,
That's so cool.
you can do voice memos also.
Yeah.
So I'll just sing like a melody or something and then come back to it.
So
with,
if
with
you're
progression.
collaborating with someone else, can they also access what you
In Evernote? That's a good question. I think so.
creating?
If they have, it might be like if they have the premium version of Evernote.
Okay.
But I don't know. You should download it and we should try, because it has a little share thing. But normally what we do with voice memos is we'll just send it back and forth on text message.
Yeah.
Ask like, hey, I'm asking for feedback. I don't want you to write on this. Or, hey, I'm asking for feedback. I'd love you to write on this. You know? So it's established either I want to finish this because I feel like God is calling me to grow in discipline as a songwriter and not rely on co-writes, you know? Or, hey, I have this hook and I've tried to write 10 different verses and I can't get anywhere. I really need some help for you to do it, you know? So that, I think that has been helpful for all of us in writing songs for our church is like, I get hooks all the time. And I have 85 notes worth of lyrics that like maybe a quarter of them have melodies attached to them, because that's just how my brain works, is lyrics and writing. And one of our girls, Megan, can't write lyrics to save her life, but she has melodies coming out of her ears that are so catchy. She's an amazing singer. So good. Dom's super good. We call it the editor position, where like mostly someone is gifted with lyrics, someone is gifted with melody, and someone is gifted at editing, which means this is everything. I'm going to come back and I'm going to give you some feedback on like, switch this out. That lyric doesn't work. This doesn't work. So it's like,
kill your darlings.
Refining.
Is what Stephen King says.
Oh my gosh.
It's so true. In
It is so true.
Writing books, kill your darlings. Yeah. You're like, no, don't give me that.
I know, I feel so bad. I'm like, cut this whole section out of your manuscript. I know it took you 20 hours, but yeah, finding people who are gifted at things. Like, I'm not gifted at chord progressions or arrangements at all. You know, so I'll send something to someone because I was worshiping to, here I am to worship. And so I use that chord progression, and they're like, why don't you try
how many songs
flipping
go
this?
unwritten because they don't have a community, like you're describing? Like songs from heaven.
It's true.
You know, because you didn't have the editor, Dom. You didn't.
Right.
Yeah.
What has God taught you about collaborating with others?
How do I phrase this? I am so sensitive and so emotional, and my default is to take something personally all the time. And like, number one, Dom is very black and white and very straightforward. He loves, his heart is so big that he's just to the point.
Yeah.
That's how he is. And I think part of the reason I was so scared when he first approached me was like, I don't want to show you something that I've poured my heart and soul into, because I'm scared you're going to cut it to pieces. But I have grown so much from submitting myself to people who have A, been doing it longer, and B, see so differently than I do. Like, he told me something the other day that was super profound. He said, Katie, you have to know the rules in order to break them. Okay, what are the rules? He said, start studying, like, the Beatles. Pretty much invented pop music. So let's look at their songs and break apart a few things that you can find in every Beatles song. Okay, you can generally find verse, chorus, bridge. You can generally find that if the chorus has a super fast cadence, then the verses will be slow. You can generally find, like, if this chord progression is used, like 6, 4, 1, 5, it's like continued. Who knows theory-wise why that works?
Because there's a God and he's a mathematician.
Right.
Yeah.
Dude. But stuff like that is so black and white that I would have never. It's my tendency is to separate, like, this is spiritual and this is secular, when God, all of it is created by Him. So why would I look at it this way? And so for me, I'm like, oh, but I want God to give me things, and I want it to feel good, and I don't want to have to work for it, and I don't want to have to write songwriting into my schedule. I just want it to happen. But Dom has taught me that there's, like, power in learning, like, the discipline and learning the rules, or
I'm going to send her to Dominic's music.
oh yeah,
Please do.
mm-hmm. He also has, I'll see if I can find the link. He did, when I first got saved, actually, I went to this it was called The Ministry of Worship. It was a 3-part series on like the heart of worship, how he has been taught to like look at worship, why they do like first and second set, all of it, like what's the role of a worship leader, what's not the role of a worship leader. Super profound. I'll see. It's definitely public. I'll see if I can find it. There's so much like heart and practical stuff in there.
Yeah.
For band dynamics too.
Are there any like words of wisdom that you could give to me as an aspiring songwriter?
Yes. Schedule writing into your calendar.
Songwriting or just writing in general?
Songwriting. I think, yeah, where I've gone wrong a lot is I'm a writer. I like write on social media. I like write things for myself. I write all the time, which is good, but songwriting is such a specific craft. That's like, I can write a bunch of words down, but they might not work with a melody. So like writing into your calendar, because if it's not in your calendar, then you probably won't do it, you know? Like, okay, this day, I'm going to block off half the day. I'm going to spend time with God, and then I'm going to spend time writing with an instrument, but like whatever it is. If something that helps me so much when I sit down to write is worship pads, the like synthy like background noise.
Yeah.
They have them on YouTube, but I just bought, it's like $10 on iTunes to buy a set of worship pads, and I'll put on a pad because you're basically just hearing the root note of the key. And if you're on the one, your melodies can go anywhere. Right. There's endless possibility. So just sit on the one until something comes, like, oh, I'm like just riffing or singing out things, and I hear this melody. Okay, what is my heart feeling in this moment? What do I want to say right now? Oh, I just feel like I'm just loving his sweet presence right now. What do I want to say about like this sweet presence that I want to stay in? You know, to scheduling time, finding people that can help you to like send songs to for feedback or to like co-write, whether it's like Skyping Fawn or I, you know, or texting someone or sending something off. Find people that are either like gifted in different ways than you or have been doing it longer, all of the above, to help collaborate. And in that same vein, I think I've talked a lot about like people pointing out the flaws in what you're doing and helping you in that way, but also you might have something that you think sucks. You're like, I'm just gonna send it anyway because I know that they love me and that their heart is to help me.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna be offended. I'm just gonna send this off, and they're gonna tell me if it sucks. And sometimes it's anointed, but you don't know it because you've been sitting with it and someone else hasn't heard it.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like, okay, I'm just gonna send these off. I don't really care what comes back. Like, I just want to be diligent with what the Lord gave me to like see if there's anything here.
So a good point of that is I grew up with him, Andre Crouch. So you don't know. Oh, I think I played you Andre Crouch in London. Anyway, he has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. So Andre was like probably one of the first people. Michael Jackson considered him like his spiritual dad. But he was like one of the first people that turned black gospel into like pop, you know, black gospel. But his very first song he threw away, which was probably one of his strongest songs, and he got it by just watching barbecue sauce being poured on a barbecue.
So funny.
And he wrote, "Blood will never lose its power," and he threw it away in the trash can. And his twin sister Sandra plucked it out and goes, "No, this is too powerful." The "Blood will never lose its power" is probably one of the top Christian songs of the last 40 years. That was probably 40. No, probably 50 years.
Wow.
Yeah, probably 50 years.
That's so good.
Yeah.
You
so
never
you
know.
don't know. You don't know. It could be, and Stephen Furtick, he writes songs all the time. And it's
I know.
Like,
He's always like number one writer cred on all of Elevation's songs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he writes them, and then everybody's like, "Oh, this stinks." Like one he wrote was about my heart is make my heart an altar, or something.
Oh, come to
And
the altar.
everybody was like, stinks. And he's like, is there anything in it? And all the guys he writes with are like, no, there's nothing here. We can't make it work. And then one of the guys goes, well, what if we say come to the altar? Because it was just too poetic. Like, make me an altar was too poetic, too hard to explain. I mean, all the poets get it, but nobody else is going to get it.
Right.
And so come to the altar is like one of the top worship, I don't even know it, but that's one of the top worship songs. Mm-hmm. But sometimes it's just a slight tweak.
Right.
Just a little tweak.
So good.
Or it's someone fishing it out of the garbage can and going, nope.
Yeah.
This is a powerful song. I mean, millions of people have sung.
Wow.
You could look it up.
Yeah.
The blood will never lose its power.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so good. Trying to think if there's anything else. Morning pages. That like practice of writing in the morning. That or read it. The book is amazing. She's not writing to songwriters. Well, she's writing to writers of all kinds. But her top 2 exercises are morning pages. So every morning. So if you feel like stuck in 3 pages, like, oh my gosh, that's so overwhelming, I'll never do it because I don't think that I could write 3 pages, then like just aim to write a paragraph. There are some days where I wake up, I'm like, I could totally write 3 pages today. And there are some days I wake up, I'm like, I'm gonna pick something to write about and I'm gonna write until I can't write anymore. Yeah. That, and she calls them artist dates. So
artist dates.
Artist dates.
Oh, I love that.
You write that into your calendar too. Once a week, I'm gonna go somewhere that inspires me. So for me, when I'm in nature, I get so inspired. In the like woods, seeing flowers, like anywhere outside, I get so much inspiration. So okay, I know that I want to go and I want to take, even if I don't take an instrument, if I just take a notebook and my phone and make it a priority to just sit with God with the intention of like breathing in inspiration, you know?
Yeah.
It's like once a week making it a priority to like, she calls it digging the wells.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I'm like super inspired by all these things. If I don't write right now on my artist day, I'm just going to write down some ideas so I can go back home and like mine these out and see if there's anything there, you know?
Yeah.
It's like constant. I mean, like last night I was listening to a podcast. I just like, all these ideas started popping in my head. Like none of them are fleshed out. I just, okay, there's something there. I'm totally going to forget if I don't write it down. I need to write it down.
Yeah.
Go back to it, you know?
Good.
I'm gonna send you the blood will never lose its
Oh my gosh, yes.
He wrote the music for Color Purple movie and for Lion King.
Well,
Some of it, not all of it.
What is your strong suit, do you think? Like melodies or lyrics or editing? Or you're still trying to figure that out?
I think melody. I think melody.
Melody,
I think melody. And she'll grow in lyrics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, for growing in lyric, do you read the Passion Translation at all?
I have. It's not home. I didn't
Okay.
bring it with me on my travels, but I love it.
Yeah. Like
So good.
stuff like that, if lyrics don't come super naturally to you, reading stuff that has like poetic lyrics, like the Psalms and the Passion Translation. Like, you don't even need to tweak any of that. It's just straight up worship music.
Yeah.
Or Sally Lloyd Jones wrote a book called Thoughts to Make Your Heart Sing.
Yeah.
And it's like a little kid's devotional that has a bunch of, it's just good language, you know?
Yeah.
Reading fiction books that are just different language than you are used to. listening to different music too. I think that's outside your normal box, you know?
Yeah.
Like
I do tend to listen to a whole variety of music.
Yeah. And figure out, like, okay, I'm drawn to this because the melodies are soaring, or I'm drawn to this group or these songs because of the lyrics, you know?
Yeah.
Like So Will I, Benjamin Hastings is one of the
such a great song, and the lyrics are so strong.
From Hillsong. He wrote that song and another song called Peace. Have you heard it? There's a peace for me. It's so good.
But the lyrics to Hillsong tracks are so strong.
Mm-hmm.
Like that So Will I song, that's exceptional.
Yeah. And that's Hastings is the main writer on that. Is like, I've been paying attention to everything that he writes because, I mean, the first time you lead that song, no one cares that they don't know it. They're just like sobbing because worship music previously has not had that type of language that's like awe-inspiring or like draws worship out of you. So studying those type of lyrics and like,
yeah, I want to do more of that really.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You have to piece. There's a YouTube video. Amanda Cook leads it a lot, and just the melodies, like, it's hard to make it a corporate song because the melodies are hard to sing, you know. But the lyrics at the end, he wrote it for his wife who struggles with anxiety, and the lyrics at the end are
what's the title?
Peace. All anxiety bows in the presence of Jesus, the King of Kings, and peace is a promise he keeps. It's like such strong visual lyrics, you know? When my mind's under siege.
Yeah. How do you steward the influence God has given you?
Wow. I think in the past couple months, not even, like the past 2 months is the first time that I have been able to like believe that even. And I think the number one thing that God's teaching me lately is like I'm a super perfectionist. I like love encouraging other people, and I love pulling out the gold in other people, but it's actually so challenging for me to write. It's been a practice for me to write down, like instead of looking at a worship set and being like, gosh, I botched that so hard. Like, that's my tendency, you know? Like, gosh, I should have shepherded this moment differently. I should have said this. I screwed up on guitar. Oh, wait, stop. Pull it back. Was I obedient to what God had given me? Yes. Okay. What did I do well? And like writing down what I did well. But as far as influence goes, it's like, gosh. It's not even like I have to try to stay humble because that's so, like, that feels like such a high honor to me to like be entrusted with anything. Like I know that there will come a point when I'll like have to remember when I felt really small, like I do now, you know? It's like, oh, like what? It blows my mind that you entrusted me with anything. And I don't want to be so caught up in like perfectionism that I do a disservice with what you've given me. Is like where I'm at right now. Okay, I want to know where you've gifted me, and I want to know what you've said to me, and I want to be confident in it, but never forget how small I feel, you know? It's like, me? You know?
What about a performance mindset? Because I know that's something that we as creators tend to fall into.
Yeah. I study a lot about neuroplasticity. It's the brain's ability to rewire itself and to like grow again. And one of the neuroplasticity tricks, if you're so used to thinking a certain way, like the easiest way to look at this is suicide. So there used to be this rut in my brain that's like, I want to die, you know? And the first step to rewiring that pathway is just saying no, you know? So like for me, that plays out in I suck. Like, I suck. Okay, no. Because performance can go either way. It can be pride or it can be like, I suck. You know, it's the same root. Like, I am more concerned with how I sound than how God, like, moved in a room, which is foolish. So I've been envisioning a big stop sign in my head when I start to think that. It's like, okay, I'm sitting here, like service is just starting, and I have already screwed up. Stop. God, what are you doing in the room? Who is in the room? And oftentimes he'll show me, like, I see all those empty seats, there's angels there. Like, who's in the room? What are you doing in the room? What is my role? Okay, here we are. My role is to sing these songs with everything that I have, to pray for the people, and to be obedient to what you're telling me to do. And if I mess up, I just get to envision the stop sign, and I get to move on. You know?
Yeah.
And afterwards, it could be a good practice. Which side do you tend to swing on?
That sucks.
I suck.
Or I suck.
Yeah. So maybe a good practice would be the same thing that I'm trying to do is, what are 3 things that I did well? Instead of rattling off everything that sucked. Like, okay, practically, I played the guitar, and I'm scared to play the guitar. I did it. You know? I, like, kept time for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
You know? But spiritually also, like, wow.
Yeah.
If the shepherd left the 99 for 1, then if no one in the room responded except for 1 person got free, then it's a job well done. Like, this is why I was here, to see that 1 person set free. You know? It's hard for me as a human who's seen God do such crazy things to, like, lead at the Sadcore responds all the time, no matter what. But there's a lot of churches that are like, they just look at you like you're performing for them. Like, wrong Sunday to come, I'm not a performer. Yeah. You know? Like, okay, look around the room. Like, there is 1 person that's worshiping their face off, or like comes up and says, like, I had this encounter with God. I don't know what it is. Like, okay, that is why I was here. I wasn't here to, like, put on a show. I wasn't here to sing every note right or get everything right. I was here to be obedient, and God touched that person. That's really all that matters, you know? And if you don't find that one person, then God probably has something to show you, you know? That's like, I was doing something even if you couldn't see it.
Yeah.
You know? It's like, wow, I was listening to Stephanie Redsinger the other day, and she was talking about our tendency to like base a worship set off of people's response. It's just not, you know?
Yeah.
I'm like, I've seen God blow up a room before. Like, I know He can do it. That's like, I want to see people respond. But what we don't realize is that the people that may have come into the room, like showing up, was a sacrifice for them. Like, they are sobbing in their chair and can't do anything but show up, but they showed up, and that was like the biggest sacrifice of worship that they could do. You know, like someone raises their hand this much, like that was a sacrifice for them. Like, we have no idea what's happening. I was like, could you have told me that 5 years ago when I was like storm off stage being so frustrated? You know, we never know what's happening in a room that we can't see. Like, guaranteed Dom didn't see what was happening in me when I like got saved when he was leading worship, you know? It was an internal thing, but I was doing it.
So what does being a local creative mean to you?
I think in the context of I have a mother's heart in a lot of ways, to like see people feel accepted and valued and seen. And one of the ways I've seen that happen is writing original songs. Because people can hear other people's worship songs and it doesn't do anything. But if they hear something that we get to tell them, like we wrote this for this season for you. Something happens that's so different when someone hears a sound that's just for them, you know? So for me, that's my main priority in writing, is like, it's cool to write songs for myself or write songs for, like, I have a desire to write songs about hope and suffering for like people who suffer, you know? But my main priority is, what is God doing in our church, and what does He want to say to our people? Like, right now, we're in this crazy identity shift where some of us have been Christians forever and never knew what it was like to be the daughter or the son of a king. Like, what are the implications with that? Like, when He looks at me, He's not sad. When He looks at me, He's not angry. Like, He looks at me with pride. You know? It's like, okay, God is doing this. I want to steward what He's saying for the church right now, because that's why He has me here and not somewhere else. You know? And in the same vein, He's kind of doing the same thing across the world. It just looks a little bit different in each place, you know? Like, you can tell by the songs that are popular that are coming out, you know? Lauren Daigle wrote that song, You Say. Hillsong wrote Who You Say I Am. All these songs are coming out about identity. Like, okay, God is saying something to His church about Him defining who we are and not the world. You know?
What do you feel like God is doing in relation to the empowerment of like local creativity?
Yeah. I really feel strongly about that all over the world, like investing in your people Because if those people know, like, I know who I am now because of a song, maybe. You know? Like, I walked away from a service and I didn't remember a single thing that the pastor said, but I remember that thing that they sang because it has a melody and I, like, remember it. So these people now have influence over this thing that God had originally given us to, like, give, and they get to hold this thing and go on and give it to another person that gives it to another person. And on the other side of the coin, people who have never met Jesus all know the language of music also. You know? It's like, I think of me coming into a worship set and knowing that it was different. It's not musically interesting. Like, a 2 or a 3 chord and worship music is crazy. You know, slash chords, woo. Like, it's not musically interesting, but God is on it, and that's what makes it different. So I think that writing, even, like, I hate labeling it secular, but not, like, just writing songs or melodies or singing or playing over our cities, like, God, what are you saying over this region? What's the language that they're going to respond to? You know?
Yeah.
And often it's the opposite of what plagues it. Like, okay, there's a super apathetic spirit here. They probably need a whole lot of joy. You know? It's like, okay, what are you saying over here? You're definitely not saying that life sucks and that it's not worth living. Like, you're definitely saying that there's so much in Jesus that it's, like, uncontrollable, you know? Like, whoa. Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in to the Creative Exchange podcast. We hope that this conversation has been a life-giving experience and that it propels you into meaningful, creative connection with the world around you. For more inspiring content, be sure to frequently log on to our website to find the latest podcast episodes. For now, over and out.